Story 1. Why sheet music for saxophones and trumpets has to be transposed and cannot just be written in concert C like guitar and bass, which I play. Story 2. Why do people not value knowledge and logic? People are so illogical that it makes me want to scream. The real kicker is that they will deny it with their dying breath. Story 3. How people see joy in the misery of others is kind of like the bully syndrome. It is very prevalent in online message boards, particularly concerning politics or idealistic subjects. The most baffling thing is seeing people who honestly want something to fail just so they can say someone they disagree with was wrong, no matter who the failure hurts. It could hurt everyone on the planet, but people will still cheer on the failure just to say, "Told you so." Story 4. Electricity and computers. How does a flowing river of current convert into the pixels appearing on the screen? Analog music, such as a record, can literally store music on a piece of plastic by making etches into the surface. What? Story 5. Why is correcting someone without treating them like an idiot considered rude? I care about being right. If I say something wrong, I want to be told, and I always appreciate updated knowledge. I cannot understand why most people prefer to stay in their ignorance and take correction as a personal attack. Story 6. Chess. I am an automation engineer who works on differential equations for fun, and I just cannot figure out. Story 7. Why do women believe in a religion that is specifically harmful to them and considers them to be the property of their husbands? Story 8. Algebra. I had to take it twice in college and barely passed. If someone asked me to solve an equation today, I would still be clueless. Story 9. Why could anyone vote for Donald Trump? I have tried hard to understand why and cannot get anyone to explain it to me. My brother cannot even explain it so that it makes sense. Story 10. The Monty Hall problem. Even when people say to increase the number of doors from 3 to 1 million, it still does not seem advantageous to switch your pick. Story 11. How can people be so okay with being financially irresponsible, having zero savings, or even being in debt, but still using credit cards to pay for vacations? I just don't get it. I would be so stressed if I were in their situation. Story 12. Stock options. It is a strange concept to me. I do not understand why it works. I have a hard time understanding it because you are kind of doing things in reverse. It is built on the idea that there is always someone who wants to pay money even for things you do not want to pay money for. Story 13. I cannot understand people knowing injustice is present, having the power to end it, but not doing so because that injustice is beneficial to them. I cannot understand anyone with any intellect behaving this way. I do not understand a lack of objectivity. Story 14. Politics and why people get so angry over opinions. Brothers and sisters, politics is a metaphorical contest between two people who in almost every situation do not have your best interests at heart. You only defend them because they repeat what you want to hear, like a mother bird feeding its chicks. Step away from the keyboard and join me in the peanut gallery as we observe the elderly leaders trying to run their respective countries. Story 15. Infinities and nothingness. I understand that the universe is infinite and that it is constantly expanding, but what is beyond the border of the universe? And how can it expand infinitely? I know the universe is really big, but really big is not infinite, and I cannot grasp the concept of infinite or that there is an infinite amount of nothing past the last star. Similarly, I know the Big Bang happened around 13.6 billion years ago, but what was here before the Big Bang? Considering how infinitely large the universe is now, I cannot fathom a universe where all of the matter in existence fit atop a pinhead with infinite density. I do not know if it was a god that made it. I do not personally think so, but I do think there are some things I am not meant to understand. Story 16. The logic behind the question, "Why did you do it like that?" essentially translates to, "You should not have done it like that. I do not get it. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I have autism, by the way." Story 17. Why do women stay with men who beat or abuse them? I have seen women leave and move away, only to return later. I cannot understand it. Story 18. How men can harm women, children, animals, or anything physically weaker than themselves. Men are supposed to naturally be protectors, so why? It does not make you more macho or masculine to harm something or someone who cannot equally fight back. It actually makes you appear weaker and less of a human being, so why do it? Story 19, the dating scene. I have been on multiple dates this past year, and it feels like everyone is just wasting each other's time. Story 20, knots. I am a pretty handy person, but I have never learned knots. I have checked out books and have a pocket guide. I have watched YouTube videos. I know if I developed the muscle memory it would be fine, but when I watch the videos something happens, my brain does not follow and it seems like magic. Story 21. Artificial intelligence is taking every job. People who say this have a third-grade education and have only worked in technology. They cannot understand how non-technical jobs operate. Story 22. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, inattentive type, and people don't understand that I just can't, for the life of me, understand math or, oddly enough, musical scales. I had different teachers back in high school who tried for weeks to teach me both subjects. But they all ended up giving up. Also, geography was difficult. I had to take daily tests labeling all the states correctly for over a month before I finally cheated and got a passing score. I didn't receive a diagnosis until my 30s, and a lot of my younger years make much more sense now. Story 23. I struggle with speakers. I understand the mechanics and physics involved, but it still feels like magic that a bunch of plastic and metal can recreate human speech. Story 24. How people crave attention. I just want negative attention. I just work with you, brother. I do not care to hear about every detail of your life. Story 25. Why do my socks disappear in the dryer? I have studied quantum physics, philosophy, and even offered sacrifices to the laundry gods, yet somehow one always vanishes. It is the Bermuda Triangle of my apartment. Story 26. Why do young people wear socks with sandals? You wear sandals so your feet can breathe. Socks defeat the purpose and look unappealing. Story 27. How can someone be a raging alcoholic and that is accepted, but if you smoke the smallest amount of marijuana, your employer can automatically terminate your employment? Story 28. That riddle where one guard watches the door to heaven and the other watches the door to hell. One guard only lies, and the other only tells the truth, and you have only one question. Why would you not just ask one of them, what is 2 plus 2? It feels overly complicated whenever someone explains it to me. Story 29. What I did in a past life to deserve a father who always complains about every little thing and, what is worse, is a hypochondriac who believes almost everything he reads on the internet. Story 30. Magnets. I can recite the textbook explanation, but I have never truly understood the mechanics. My brain refuses to accept any logical explanation. I continue to refer to it as magic, which drives my partner crazy. Story 31. Eye contact. I am mostly blind and cannot see someone's eyes unless I am very close to them. Sighted people have tried to explain eye contact to me multiple times. I know enough to somewhat imitate it, but all the descriptions make it sound like people are shooting invisible lasers from their eyes at each other. Story 32. People who are complete jerks and seem to always get their way. If I step one tiny pinky toenail out of line, I am immediately criticized for being difficult. But some people push through their peers as if they are the main character in life, and everyone is there to support them, yet they face no consequences. Makes no sense. I just wish being a good person was not entirely self-detrimental. Story 33. Why do people stress and worry about things that have not happened and may never happen? Perhaps it is because I have been living with depression and anxiety for so long that I am quite adept at dealing with stress. However, worrying about things that might not even happen feels like a waste of mental resources. Story 34. Cryptocurrency. I have had it explained to me many times, and I am no closer to understanding how mining for Bitcoin works. Story 35. Chemistry. I got an A in high school and an A in college, but the periodic table and all its numbers still do not make sense to me. Story 36. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle. To me, it does not make sense for the universe to actually have uncertainty in how it operates. It does make sense that our observation of objects has limitations. The uncertainty principle is just the name we have given to the veil that is in the way of those observations. Story 37. Opportunity cost. I understand the concept, but I do not see why it is given so much importance when it is not truly known. It is just a guess, a potential benefit, not something that was actually gained and then lost. Story 38. I'm usually fairly okay at figuring out math if I work at it, but differential equations are a nightmare. Story 39. Social cues. As an autistic person, I can understand some aspects of socializing, but it feels like I am missing an entire sense, similar to a deaf person trying to understand speech by reading lips. This makes many situations strange and difficult. Story 40. How gravity affects time. I have had it explained with an orange on a blanket to illustrate the curvature of spacetime, and I abstractly understand it. However, I also really do not fully grasp it. Story 41. Why are some people incapable of using hand tools? I understand that some people have medical issues preventing their hands from working properly, but a fully functioning adult should be able to turn a screwdriver without stripping the head. Story 42. Blender. I have tried many times to learn it, and it feels like a complex combination to perform the simplest actions. Everything is hidden behind multiple drop-down menus. I just wish it were more intuitive. Story 43. I'm not a stupid person, but my whole life I've been baffled by this. If I fly from the East Coast to the West Coast in 3 hours and cross 4 time zones, I'll arrive before I left. If I do that again to Japan, I'll arrive before I left. Do that repeatedly, and eventually I am back where I started before I started, right? I know it's wrong, but at what point does it just fast forward a day? Is it New Zealand? I feel like New Zealand is the answer. If you want to play a game before it releases locally, just swap your location to New Zealand and you're in a day earlier than anyone around you. Story 44. Math. I cannot, for the life of me, understand math. For example, how is it that everything divided by 0 is 0? That makes no logical sense. If 3 and 2 are different, how is it that two-dimensional and three-dimensional math are largely the same, but for some reason, once math reaches 4 dimensions, it is an entirely different concept? Also, where does the decimal point go and how do I move it? What is calculus even good for? If I send all $500 in my bank account and the bank charges a fee, how is my account even still open once it is negative by the amount of the fee? And what comes after column when I am counting in Finnish? Math, I will never understand it. Story 45. Nationalism. I do not love my country, and frankly, given that it does not respect or believe in universal human rights and is overall more harmful than beneficial to the rest of the world, we cannot even collectively agree that the genocidal British Empire was wrong. I think being nationalistic is being against human rights. Being patriotic is more or less the same, just a slightly milder version. Not everything about the United Kingdom is good, but I do not think anyone should love their country, although liking some aspects is fine. My country cares so little about any of us that it would leave us homeless if we do not keep enriching the wealthy. It is exceptionally selfish towards marginalized people, as shown by how eager we are to cut foreign aid. Worst of all, it would be willing to respond to a nuclear attack with one of its own, causing mass civilian casualties in a particularly horrific way. I cannot and will not love my country. I do, however, genuinely like the weather here, aside from heat waves and occasional rain. Story 46. Anything to do with particle physics and I cannot take it in. Nothing. Basic particles? No idea, but I still cannot stop reading the latest news. Story 47. Highways and freeways can be confusing without a global positioning system. I do not know which route leads where, and I do not know which lane splits off to which destination. I just do not understand it. Story 48. The fact that time moves slower at greater speeds is understandable. I can somewhat grasp the hypothetical relativity in the thought experiments, but the fact that atomic clocks actually measured different times on land and on a plane is absolutely difficult to comprehend. Story 49. Heat pumps. Heating at -10 degrees Fahrenheit is witchcraft. Cooling at 90 degrees Fahrenheit is crazy too. I understand many things, but that is still left to magic. Story 50. Any of these, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Below Deck, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Jersey Shore, Snooki, and JWoww. Story 51. As sad and ironic as this sounds, being a financial analyst, I can never go beyond high school level algebra in terms of math comprehension. How I ended up as a finance major in college is a mystery to me. It is also ironic that back in middle and high school, I truly hated math with a passion. Oh, the irony. Story 52. Consistently angry or miserable people, or people who take joy in other people's misery, probably need some sort of help. However, being like that all the time must be genuinely exhausting. Story 53. Sheet music. I play guitar, bass, and have played piano for a long time as well, but I never could grasp sheet music. I just learned by ear or numbered tablature. I have always done this since I was 4 and first learned piano, and I always will. I had a friend try to teach me sheet music, but it just made me upset instead. Story 54. Star Wars. Attack of the Clones. I have watched this movie many times, and I am still confused. How do giant worms trying to kill Padme lead to Obi-Wan finding a group of clones, and then our main trio almost getting killed by off-brand dinosaurs in a sandbox? I do not understand how the plot ties together at all. Story 55. A lot of board games. It is so embarrassing. I do not like to play board games, and I do not care which one people assure me will change my life, and I will absolutely love it. No matter what the game is, I cannot process the rules, and I feel stupid the whole time. Story 56. The strong desire to follow the latest trends can lead to wasting money. It is better to focus on buying food. Story 57. Anything music theory. I can pick up most instruments and play something coherent pretty effectively. My muscle memory with shapes is good. My relative pitch is fine. Perfect pitch is not useful. My improvisation is okay sometimes. But anything relating to names of notes, what works over what chords, modes, and so on, and I get lost. Story 58. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. In my simple mind, standing on a bullet train and shining a laser should result in the speed of light plus the train's velocity being greater than the speed of light. But some real Einstein out there says no, and I just cannot understand it. Story 59. Black holes evaporating through Hawking radiation. If one particle from a pair of particles is pulled into the black hole while the other escapes as Hawking radiation, then the black hole has just increased in size by one particle. It has not lost something it never had. Therefore, black holes cannot evaporate. All physicists are wrong, and I should receive the Nobel Prize. Story 60. How people can inflict their greatest fear on another person and how God does not simply accept defeat and erase those people like Thanos. Story 61. Why do people spend a lot of time learning to make drawings that look like photographs? If you want a picture that looks like a photograph, why not take a photo? Story 62. Why do people send their children to school from kindergarten through 12th grade? It is clearly a scam. I cannot understand how people do not see through it. School does not teach anything necessary that a parent or guardian could not. However, it is a huge time waster and indoctrinates children into an authoritarian mindset. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.